Um, I haven't seen a lot of surplus, a little bit, but not much. I've just recently, as you, you have
Mhm.
recently just started seeing surplus again. Um, but sometimes there's overage.
Mhm.
Um, but even if it's not, if if you're white, you still have the right to enforce the note and ask for the deficiency if you're allowed to ask for the deficiency.
And then I assume that it's state by state as far as the statute of limitations up to
Hmm.
so many years later.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep.
Hmm.
There is a I'll call him an old soul in California. I love him to death because um, a lot of the old guys taught me so much about the way they did business. So, so I gravitated to a lot of the older guys in business because I learned so much.
Yeah.
And he actually would renew judgments in California
Hmm.
and got very, very wealthy doing it and been doing it since like the 80s. And I was like, wow, that's neat. And so, and he was like, well, Sabrina, I'm going to renew this judgment. And I'm like, well, how? He was like, well, because you can renew it so many years. And
I guess like a statute of limitations, you have to renew that opportunity.
yeah, so he was renewing judgments in certain states that he was permitted to do so. And he stayed on top of it. So he actually had like a calendar, like every time it was time for a judgment to renew in his office, especially like on people who had properties over like $400,000.
Mhm.
He would renew those judgments because his mindset is like people who lived in those type of properties, they were prideful people, and they would always have a certain type of lifestyle, and
Mhm.
eventually they would come back. They would come back up, and he would basically get something from them down the line. And most times he did. Or they would want to buy something, or they would want to sell something, and they'd have to satisfy that judgment before they could.
Yeah. Just quick things. Cindy Coleman before said hello. She wanted to make sure I got it out across to you. Cindy's a common follower of us. She wanted to make sure she said hello. We did have a question from John. You mentioned about going after people with money in an account.
Hmm.
How do you know that they have money in an account? What's that process of finding out where their accounts are, how to levy them, and even things like tax returns?
Okay, so you guys, microbilt. Some of you guys know about microbilt, right?
Yep.
Some of you guys belong to microbilt. There is a feature with microbilt that does an asset search for you. Look at that on the drop down on the side. You can actually do an asset search through microbilt, and it will come back and it will give you hits for assets. That's one way you can do it.
Hmm.
Two, go back to that origination file that you had or you have when you buy your note.
Mhm.
So we get cheap, we get lazy in the note space, and we don't want to pay for all those copies for Richmond Monroe or Casey Wilson to make all those copies, or we don't want to pay the storage fee for that origination file. That information, you guys, is golden. I have had the same checking account for over 30 years. Now, I'm not, you can't get a deficiency judgment against me, but I've had that same checking account for over 30 years. So I put a voided check in my file when I bought my house.
Mhm.
So when you're going through those files, that checking account information is there. Even if a bank merges, your checking account number doesn't change.
Hmm.
Even if when you put your assets on the 1003 or the IRLA now that we call it, that information is on your loan application. All you got to do is call and see if the bank account is open.
Hmm.
So if someone doesn't have a connection to Merck, can they go find assets through a service out there that can?
Well, we have a few people that say they can find assets that show up at our note events and things like that, but I don't know how credible they are. They say that they can find assets, you can hire private investigators, you can hire companies to do that. Yeah, you can. But I've been successful even on finding assets through the microbuilt option.
But if someone
And
doesn't have access to microbial, is there places that can like wholesale microbial, like they can do the search for them?
no, you can't do that. That's not
I'm just
permissible.
asking, right? Because I'm presuming most people are gonna say, well, I'm not.
Nathan, now
for
you know
microbial.
he's breaking. You know David is breaking the rules, even asking that question.
Right? That's the problem right now, right? Because a lot of people here may be a one or two investor. They say,
Oh,
I'm not gonna be part of microbial. How can I go find his assets if I'm not, doing this full time and not buying a bunch of assets? And I'm maybe do it one time, right?
okay.
How can they go about doing it?
So the other thing is like a lot of our attorneys that we use for foreclosure, they use LexisNexis. LexisNexis is very expensive, but LexisNexis also has a tool to search for assets. So that's another way that you can do that. Not only are you looking for bank account information, but you can also attach to other property, you guys.
Hmm.
Deficiency judgment, you get a judgment, you attach to other property. Think about it. Let's think outside the box.
Yeah, you can
So,
attach to a whole county and just
hmm
everything that
Mhm.
person owns.
hmm
so I've got a situation where it's not a deficiency judgment, it's just a judgment. So I had a contractor that was going to do some work on a property. I paid him in advance, which I don't normally do, but I did because I decided to trust him for some reason. And then he took my money and didn't do any of the work. And I never do this, but I did this time because I was just insulted. So I went ahead and hired an attorney to get in a judgment. Judgment was granted, but now we can't find this guy. So it's in Tennessee, and I've got time. Tennessee's got a nice long statute of limitations there. What's my best way of collecting on that?
Where at in Tennessee?
It's in Kingsport.
And they call me the godmother of notes for a reason. And it's because it's the Guido in me now. Um, has he just fallen off the face of the earth?
Yeah, I mean, we've tried Facebook and like everything. We've tried all kinds of different things to track this guy down, and he's just kind of disappeared. It's keeping a low profile at the very least.
Have you tried like Lowe's, Home Depot? Have you called the Lowe's, Home Depot?
Nope. I'm gonna make a note.
So call the Pro Desk.
Okay.
Become friends with the Pro Desk and see if he is taking other business through the Pro Desk. Because if he's a contractor, he is. And then the sad thing is a lot of the contractors, don't have a lot.
Right.
Do you have his first and last name?
I've got his
Yep.
first and last name, but not. As far as I know, he doesn't actually have a business. He's just a guy. So I don't even know if he's licensed. Which again is all. It's on me. I hired a guy that's just a guy, and I totally get it. And a big mistake.
We learn, we live and we learn. We have hearts. It's okay. We have hearts.
I mean, Cindy mentioned, have you checked jail or prison? But I'm presuming if he's there, the judgment won't do too much good for you.
It's not going to do me a whole lot of good. I hear you don't make a lot of money in
Good
jail.
try, Cindy, though.
But really try the Home Depot, Menards, and Lowe's. And this is what I will tell you about contractors, because I do a lot of fix and flips. They are remorseful, and sometimes they will come back and they will redeem themselves.
Okay.
Believe it or not, they are remorseful, especially if you call out the Lowe's and Home Depot and embarrass them.
Right.
Will
That's
Lowe's or Home
sometimes-
Depot talk to you? I mean, will they actually?
Just so you got to be friends with the people at the Pro Desk.
Gotcha.
Just call and just talk nice to them. They just want somebody to talk to.
Yeah. I can talk. That's all right. That's
Yeah.
good. Good tip. I will
So
do
when
that.
we look at these things, it sounds to me as you can pick a situation that may not be great, and you may just barely get out.
Mhm.
And a year later, your returns could just be amazing because you can go after this money that the borrower still owes you through a legal process, wage garment, and we talked on the phone about this, and I never even thought about it, but taxes. Their tax return for the next year is now yours.